The 2024 COP29 Summit in Baku, Azerbaijan, convened global leaders to tackle the urgent challenge of climate change. Held from November 11th to 22nd, this event served as a critical platform for discussing strategies, sharing insights, and addressing the pressing issues related to climate action. As this presentation will explore, the COP29 Summit was marked by a range of key takeaways, discussions, and controversies that will undoubtedly shape the future of climate policy and initiatives. The 2024 COP29 Summit in Baku, Azerbaijan, brought together over 30,000 attendees, including world leaders and environmental activists, to address pressing climate issues. Key topics discussed included climate finance, energy transition, emission reductions, and global collaboration. The overall goal of the summit was to advance climate action worldwide through collaborative efforts and policy discussions. The COP29 summit yielded several key takeaways. Firstly, there was a renewed commitment to climate finance, with pledges to raise $1.3 trillion annually by 2035. However, this fell short of the demands from vulnerable nations. Secondly, the summit saw progress on global carbon trading, with an agreement to implement Article 6 for international carbon markets. Lastly, there was a renewed focus on reducing methane emissions, with a target of a 30% reduction by 2030. The summit saw significant discussions on two key areas. Regarding energy transition, there were proposals to triple renewable energy by 2030, although these faced resistance from nations heavily reliant on oil. Additionally, the Baku Adaptation Roadmap was launched to implement the adaptation targets set forth in the Paris Agreement. The summit in Baku was not without its controversies. Saudi Arabia blocked proposals for mandatory fossil fuel phase-out commitments, while developed nations fell short of the $1 trillion annual financial support demanded by developing nations. Tensions also arose over unequal responsibilities in climate action between nations. Additionally, Azerbaijan faced criticism for its human rights record and governance issues. The COP29 summit saw several key achievements. Notably, 31 nations committed to tripling their nuclear energy capacity by 2050. Additionally, there was an emphasis on peatland conservation to curb emissions and protect biodiversity. Finally, the global cooling pledge was renewed, aiming to reduce cooling-related emissions by 68% by 2050. The summit in Baku, Azerbaijan, highlighted several challenges that remain in the fight against climate change. Firstly, there was a lack of agreement on phasing out fossil fuels, a crucial step for limiting global warming. Secondly, insufficient funding for the global transition to clean energy hindered progress. Lastly, limited progress was made on capping global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius, a key target set by the Paris Agreement. These challenges underscore the need for continued international cooperation and ambitious climate action. The road to COP30 requires concerted efforts in three key areas. Firstly, building consensus on critical issues like phasing out fossil fuels is essential. Secondly, developing fair mechanisms for climate finance distribution will ensure equitable support for vulnerable nations. Lastly, prioritizing concrete steps to mitigate climate change effectively will be vital in achieving global climate goals.